Good evening, members. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting, 17th of November. We are live on the live stream. Fire alarm procedures. If the fire alarm is activated, vacate the offices via the stairs. Please do not use the lifts. Assemble in Hawley Square on the Green. Officers will assist you and advise when it is deemed safe to return to the chamber. Please switch off or turn to silent your mobile phones and do not make or receive calls whilst the meeting is in progress. Please note the meeting is being live streamed for members of the public. The meeting will also be recorded and will be subsequently broadcast on the internet. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? The following members have asked to speak under Council Procedure Rule 20.1. Item 6, Councillor Everett. Item 7, Councillor Keane. Item 8, Councillor Everett and Councillor Yates. Item 9, Councillor Everett. Item 10, Councillor Everett. The Cabinet are all present, so there are no apologies for absence. Does anyone have any interest to declare in the items of business on the agenda this evening? No, Charles. Item 3, minutes of the extraordinary meeting. To approve the summary of recommendations and decisions of the Cabinet meeting held on the 13th of October 2022. A copy is attached to the agenda pack. I propose that we approve the minutes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bob Bakeford. Do members agree? Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. To approve the summary of recommendations and decisions of the Cabinet meeting held on the 20th of October 2022. A copy is also attached to the agenda pack. I propose that we approve the minutes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jill Bayford. Do members agree? Item 5, mid-year review 2022-23. Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy. To introduce Councillor David Saunders.
Thank you, Leader. This report sets out the mid-year review of the Council's Treasury Management activities. At the mid-year point, we had approximately £20 million of external borrowing. No new external borrowing had been undertaken during the first half of the year, but £169,000 of debt had been repaid during that period. Looking forward to the second half of this financial year, borrowing options will continue to be reviewed in line with the current and emerging market conditions. The financing and the affordability of the capital programme is being kept under regular review due to the efforts of inflation, or the effects of inflation, and also a shortage of capital receipts. The Council's borrowing strategy will therefore also be regularly reviewed and then revised as necessary in order to achieve optimum value and risk exposure in the long term. Despite using our internal cash balances to fund our new borrowing needs, the Council still has a significant cash and investment balance, holding almost £57,000 as at the 30th of September 2022. The report sets out some proposed minor technical changes to our Treasury Management Strategy, as you'll see in the report, Section 3. Firstly, to reflect a change of accounting estimates following a further deferral in the implementation of accounting standards for leases. I am assured that making this change ensures our limits are adjusted to an appropriate level. Furthermore, there is also a proposed change to increase the length of time we are permitted to invest with the UK government from 6 months to 2 years in order to increase our investment options. Finally, I do need to report a minor breach of our investment limits for one of our deposits. This is due to an error on behalf of the Council's financial providers, where they added the accrued interest to the balance of our deposit with the fund, rather than paying the interest directly to the Council. This resulted in £6 million limit being exceeded by £4,385 for the period from the 1st of June to the 8th of June 2022, and by £5,335 from July the 1st to July the 4th, 2022. Leader, I move the recommendations. Well, it's always interesting to our shadow members, I'm sure. But things might change as the year progresses.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, it's been moved and seconded. Do members agree? I didn't have my mic on, so it wasn't recorded. So moving to item 6. Item 6 is Tenant and Leaseholders Services Q1 Performance Report 2022-23. To introduce, Councillor Jill Bayford.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet is asked to note and scrutinise the contents of the reports for Q1. The Q1 performance reports show stability within the team. MER's performance continues to show positive improvement, where customer satisfaction, with the service has increased from 90.6% in Q4 2022 to 95.4% in Q1. This is a sign of the good contract management that is in place and the service improvement plan that has been implemented. Arrears recovery also continues to show a positive trend, although the team is concerned about what the future brings for our tenants. To try and mitigate the risk of the rising costs of living, the team has changed the process of how referrals are made to the financial wellbeing team. This is to enable offices to keep more tenants more quickly, with the intention to prevent the build-up of debts. One area the team has worked on is void performance, which has been steadily improving. Focus is kept on this area to ensure this trend continues and void turnaround time meets the target. An area where performance has not improved as much as hoped is in electrical safety. The performance has only increased by 1% since Q4, which is disappointing for the team. The reason improvement has slowed is due to resources, and therefore we are procuring an additional contractor to accelerate the completion of electrical safety tests. This should be in place during Q3. MERS are also looking to take on more subcontractors to cope with the volumes of work required. I move the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. To speak under 20.1, Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, and as some of you have gathered, I am Councillor Whitehead this evening. She sends her apologies. She's got a family emergency, but she has sent some notes, which I can add to my own comments. Concise notes, she sent. So I think, first of all, well done to the tenant leaseholder management team, because I think that this is an encouraging report and should be welcomed by all sides of the council. You can't tell everything from numbers. I think we know that from our experience. But what I can say is that from my own experience, if I get a complaint about repairs and housing in my ward, it doesn't come from TDC tenants. It comes from a certain housing association. And if we were to contrast their performance with the performance of our in-house service, I think we would come out of it exceptionally well. Just a couple of questions, really. In terms of false use of entry to non-compliant homes, can we hear something about the specific process that's followed there and the timescales? And is there any further progress to report on approaches to dealing with property returns with significant disrepair? Because I think that's one area where we're slightly lagging. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everett, for the question. I know that there are times when we have to force entry for safety wherever every other method is attempted before doing this. Maybe the team could help to explain exactly how this comes about. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind comments as well. So to answer your first question about the forced entry process, we do have a very robust forced entry process, which starts off with us sending letters to residents. If we have no response to letters and we can't get access, we do try contacting them by phone. We will then go and visit them as well, cold call, and we'll do this multiple times to try and engage with the resident. Really, forced access is an absolute last resort for us. It's not something that we want to do. And actually, we can only force access if a property is empty. So the resident won't actually be in the property when we do it. If they are there and they stop us from entering, then we can't go in and we won't do that. We will then have to revert back to getting an injunction through legal means. Sorry, and the second part.
Yes.
So property with significant disrepair when they're being returned to us. This is really hard to manage. We do try to mitigate the risk of this by we have property audits now where 20% of our properties will be visited once a year by our housing officers, and we will also try and engage and visit a property when a tenant puts in to terminate their tenancy, so that we can go and talk to them about the condition of the property and what they need to do and how they should be handing that back to us. Because actually, what we will do is recharge the cost of repair works to a resident that if they've caused damage to it or it's above wear and tear or there's lots of rubbish left in there. But it is very, very hard for us to try and manage that.
Okay, Cabinet, it has been moved by Councillor Jill Bayford. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David Saunders. Do members agree? Agree. Item 7, Youth Council. To introduce, Councillor Cupp.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Youth Council is something that I have been championing, as I believe the viewpoints of our young people is important in how the council functions. The Youth Council will be run by young people and enable them to make their views heard in decision-making processes. As you will have read in the report, the Youth Council will have specific objectives which will drive the meetings. The meetings will have agendas and minutes taken as any other council meeting would. There is also a small budget available to enable the group to discuss and take forward ways of supporting local youth projects and apply for extra funding where appropriate. The community team have been working with numerous groups to invite people to attend and are expecting around 20 to attend the first meeting on the 30th of November. The team have also arranged with Stagecoach that those young people attending can have a day ride ticket free of charge to travel to the meeting as well. I've also taken part in a video promoting the Youth Council to be used for recruiting purposes. Once operational, the Youth Council will build on this to create a video library of their work. I would like to thank Penny and the community team for working incredibly hard on this. We are one of the first councils in the South East to implement a district youth council, and that is something that we should all be proud of. When we came into administration, we made this as one of our priorities, and I'm very pleased to see that we have been able to achieve this. I do really hope that you will join me in encouraging young people to attend the meeting on the 30th at 6:30 in the Austin Room. Thank you, Chair.
To speak under 20.1, Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Cupp. I was very pleased to hear about the formation of a youth council. I think it's a very important thing and really good for young people to become involved about local politics as soon as possible to be able to express their views. I was also pleased to hear that a diverse range of young people had signed up for the youth losing my words tonight, apologies, Youth Council. This is good news, as one of my concerns is that those young people already engaged with their school or group are more likely to put themselves forward for this type of opportunity, but will have a different life view to others who may be less confident to come forward. I have a number of questions, so if I list them, The first one is, can we have a breakdown, bearing in mind what I've just said, of where the young people that have expressed an interest have come from in terms of school or youth club or that, and the age range of them, so that we can start to see where we might have gaps, where we need more engagement. And then, are we confident that we have managed to get this balanced representation? How will we support the young people that have put themselves forward, especially those that might be less confident in these situations, and will there be any training for them? And is the idea that the group will be a separate entity, and in which case how will their decisions feed into council? Or will they be included in any of the other council groups or committees to feed in their views direct at that level? And finally, how will expectations be managed regarding funding and deliverability of ideas that they might have? These are the things that I'd like a bit more clarification on, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I think this is a really good initiative, so well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Cupp, if you'd like to respond. Thank you.
So in terms of young people coming forward, we, as you rightly said, we've really made sure that we have gone to nearly every single corner of Thanet as possible to make sure that we are speaking to as many young people as possible, to ensure that we are getting representatives from everybody that lives in Thanet. The age range of them is from 11 up to, I think is the eldest one 20, I think. Yeah, up to 20. And I'm sure we can look into getting a breakdown of where people have come from in terms of schools and their youth clubs and things like that. Absolutely, I'm happy to see if we can get a graph together for you to have a look at and see. You're absolutely right to see where the potential flaws are in where isn't being represented. The way the Youth Council will function is firstly, I would just like to say that this is obviously something very new to us, and this is going to be a bit of a lesson for myself and also the community team as we see how it would function in terms of what that structure would essentially look like. We want the young people to form this into something that they are proud of and that they are willing to come along to, and they can say, I've made my mark onto that. So right now, I have been talking to the team, and I've been very open that I want this to be quite a relaxed kind of structure to start off with, until they kind of get their feet under the table, and then they can truly kind of put together who they would like to be chair and so on and so forth. But I would always be, as long as I'm the cabinet member for youth engagement, I would always go along to those meetings, and I would make sure that we are bringing either a report to full council or even to the cabinet as such, so that then we can understand what is coming from the youth council and then bring it forward to full council. And in a way, I would like the youth council to be able to ask for certain cabinet members to be able to go in and present to them so they can know what's going on, and then they can form discussions from that. And also I want them to be able to feel very open in coming to cabinet members even just members of the council, because I think that's really important to make sure that they don't feel divided from what we're trying to achieve as a council altogether. The training side of things, I know the community team are going to work very hard with them so they understand what the process is, and also what how to do certain things within the council. But I'm very happy to kind of put a more program together so you can see what that training would look like for them. And in terms of expectations in being managed, I think that this is something that we can work from in our being able to deliver in what they are saying. This is a key thing in ensuring that we are engaging with young people, is proving to them that they are being listened and that we are actually implementing some of the things that they are suggesting to us. So I think that, and also the attainment level as well, you know, if we are making sure that young people are coming back, and also more people, these 20 people are not set in stone. The video that I've produced, to my embarrassment, because it is rather cheesy, is very much to try and get more younger people involved in this. So I don't want it to stop at 20 people. I want it to grow and grow. And I think that, again, is something that we can really see how well the Youth Council is doing by the attainment level. I don't know if Penny has anything more to add at all. Thank you.
I can go on forever about this. So in terms of managing the expectations, we have, that's why we've put a small budget aside for them, so that they have got something they can own and take forward. And the expectation management will be done by the team while we're talking about things, as we're going along, explaining the processes, why we can do things, why we can't do things, why it takes so long to do things, and that sort of thing. We had a meeting in here, or a presentation in here last week, around a competition we'd undertaken with some schools, and out of that, the young people that came in, 5 of them are going to be coming on the 30th, and they're across Hartsdown and St George's. So I know that there are other schools, but I just know those 2 are definite. So we'll get you all that data. In terms of support and training, they have got a specific officer within the team that will lead the whole thing, but when we're here in the meetings, we're all going to be here, so that we're all spread around the room and able to talk to them and work with them. So hopefully we'll be able to pick up on the fact that people might feel uncomfortable or might want to say something and haven't quite got that confidence, and we can encourage them. So we very much want to take this forward and make it about the young people and their voice. Feeding back in, I've been talking to my colleagues about any consultations that are coming up, anything that they're thinking about changing or policies, and we're going to look to combine them within the meetings, then get the feedback from the group, and then feed it back in to the process of, so if it's a consultation, we'll feed it back in through the consultation process, but do it as part of the group. I could waffle forever, but I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, this is a wonderful initiative, and I think obviously the Youth Council, they are us of the future, if you like, and also they will probably come up with some wonderful ideas that we've not even thought about, because young minds are very creative, and just wish that the age was 61 and then I could join it as well. But anyway, this... Turn the numbers around. Yeah, yes, that's right. Thank you, Councillor Orban. I'll stand on my head, perhaps. Yes, Cabinet, this is a noting report, so Cabinet are asked to note the contents of the report. Do you agree? Agree. Thank you. Item 8, Affordable Development Programme Update. To introduce, Councillor Jill Bayford. Sorry, Councillor Bayford, could you just put your microphone on? Sorry.
I'm sorry, everybody. Yes, a total of 60% of this funding is through borrowing, with the balance of 40% funding from retained right to buy receipts. Right to buy receipts are accrued following a sale of a council home to a tenant through the right to buy legislation. A proportion of these receipts are set aside for the provision of new affordable rented homes under the terms of an agreement with the government. This report seeks approval of the adjustment to the timescales of delivery to spend the already allocated budget and increased number of new build units in the current phase from 22 to 47, so that the total number of homes provided in phase 4 will increase to 61. These additional units will increase the number of new homes provided by the council as a result of its new build, acquisition and refurbishment programmes to a total of 191 since 2015. I move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. To speak under 20.1, Councillor Everett.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. And obviously, I support this move and welcome it. Anything which improves the quantity of the council's housing stock is to be welcomed. This is an acceleration, and good news. I can't do that without acknowledging that, of course, we are a long, long way short of where we need to be, and we do know that. I mean, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be positive about what we can achieve, but it is a small step on a long road. Nevertheless, it is good news. I know what the report says about the need to secure funding for 25/6 onwards. I wonder whether Mr Porter can give us any indication of whether he's optimistic about that. I know it does refer to a further report coming in, because obviously at the moment we've not got much projected in that slot now. In terms of the procurement structure, does the acceleration mean that we won't be following the standard tender procedure and we'll be using pre-approved providers, which will perhaps give us less flexibility in contract requirements in terms of a localised tender approach? And is it possible to confirm that we'll still be working towards carbon zero with these developments, even with the reduced timescale? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Councillor Bayford, are you going to pass straight to Bob Porter?
Yes, mostly. I'll just say we will certainly be working towards carbon zero, and I believe that we will be going out to tender for procurement, but perhaps that could be confirmed by Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Not in the order you asked, but following the order that Councillor Bayford responded. Net zero, absolutely. The specifications for our new build programme will push us as far as we possibly can towards net zero. And in fact, there is a strategy for the housing stock on achieving net zero coming through the overview and scrutiny panel, and then subsequently to Cabinet in the next cycle, setting out some objectives both for us in terms of new build and in terms of retrofitting the existing housing stock to achieve the government's targets on net zero. In terms of procurement strategy, procurement for new build is inevitably quite complex because it's in more than one stage, and as well as having to procure a constructor, we also need to procure design teams, including architecture, principal designers, health and safety consultants, and so on. So we are proposing, we have actually joined a framework for the procurement of professional services, and we're proposing in this programme to use that framework to call off those professional services to help us put together a design team. That doesn't mean, however, that we wouldn't be doing a full competitive tendering process for the appointment of constructors, and we absolutely will be doing that. In terms of our confidence in match funding beyond 2026, it's quite difficult to answer that with certainty. However, I think there is reason to be optimistic. There are potentially three sources of match funding for contributions from the housing revenue account. One of those is the right to buy receipts in accordance with the agreement with central government, and so we're continuing to sell dwellings through the right to buy, and where we do that, a proportion of that money comes back into the programme and is available for match funding. We are an accredited partner of Homes England, development partner, and their continuous engagement programme enables us to submit bids at any stage for affordable housing or social housing grant to support development, provided we can cover the match funding requirements for that programme. What we are saying in this report is that we should seek to use our right to buy receipts first and then subsequently bid to Homes England for any additional funding that we might need. The reason for that is if we don't use the receipts, we have to return them to government, and they incur interest costs when we do. And finally, we can also use contributions for affordable housing secured through Section 106 planning agreements. And so if we are unable to secure subsidy from other sources, that's always an option that is available to us. So although it's difficult in the current national spending environment to be certain, I think there's reason to be optimistic that we can continue to attract the subsidy we need.
Okay, I think there's a very comprehensive response there, and obviously it is a mission for all of us to try and accelerate as much as we can and exhaust every avenue for raising funds, and we'll continue to write to the government and emphasise the fact that we feel that the answer, I believe, and the Cabinet believe, and I'm sure you do, that the way we can get a long way out of our housing crisis is to restock our stock, whichever way we do it and whichever framework we work within. So next to speak under 20.1 is Councillor Yates.
Thank you, Leader. As mentioned by Councillor Everett, we welcome this report and fully support the recommendations to increase the homes from 36 to 61. So clause 1.4 of this report discusses the increase in the number of households in temporary accommodation, with 199 households living in temporary accommodation provided by the council. As that clause further states, our first cell-phone temporary accommodation development, Foy House, will be open soon, providing an additional 8 units for local families, which could house up to about 20 residents in total. The decision to go ahead with Foy House was made under a Labour administration, and one that we as Labour stand by. The leader, Councillor Boyd, Councillor Whitehead, Councillor Keane and myself were fortunate enough to be shown around the building today by officers. And from the Labour side, we'd like to send our congratulations to the housing officers involved in doing such a great job. And unlike other buildings locally, it was nice and warm inside with no roof leaks. So it is a bit disappointing to say that these units did face strong political opposition at the time of the decision, including from our North Thanet MP. But I do hope that now that we've all seen the units and how they all function with the high street, that we can all support Foy House. Thanks.
I think I actually missed the chapter of that political agenda because we were in full support of it, and the Cabinet was in full support of it, and unless I'm suffering with some memory loss. So, and we as a Cabinet do not, we make decisions from not from forces external, i.e. MPs, so that was a decision we made. And in actual fact, I can remember having a very long discussion with the owner of a nearby establishment, trying to say to him that he was actually being unreasonable in his view of what Foy House was meant for. So I would rather like you to probably correct that stance on the fact that we didn't support it. We supported it all the way through, and it actually was initiated from a Conservative cabinet. It was then supported by the Labour administration through it, but it was finally signed off by the then reinstated Conservative cabinet. So I think actually I would rather than being politically divisive, I would say that collectively both parties managed to achieve delivering Foy House, and as you said, we went there today, and I don't ever look at any of these schemes as to think whether or not whether it was Conservative or Labour or whatever. We deliver for the district and for the people of the district. So needless to say, I've taken a little bit of umbrage at your comments. I don't know if Councillor Bayford would like to respond as well, but she has the right to respond.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I totally agree with the Leader's comments. We are very proud of Foy House. I think it's excellent building for people who have become homeless, and it's comfortable in every way and appropriate in every way, and we are constantly looking for new sites. We've got some in mind already to provide more, so we look forward to doing this. Thank you.
So thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Jill Bayford. Do I have a seconder? Councillor George Cupp. Do members agree? Agree. Item 9, Heating Assistance Scheme. To introduce, Councillor Jill Bayford.
Right, Cabinet is being asked to agree to the allocation of remaining Regional Housing Board funds to create a heating assistance scheme to enable households who are experiencing fuel poverty to access funding. Of the 68,400 homes in Thanet, 19.2%, that's approximately 13,000 homes, are in fuel poverty. This is compared to 12.9% for the rest of the South East. Since the winter period of 2021, energy prices have soared to an average of £1,042. It's predicted gas and electricity bills for British households will rise to £2,500 a year in 2022 as a result of high wholesale gas and electricity prices, and jump further to more than £5,000 in January. Our energy advice and referral service have seen an enormous rise in calls. From June to August in 2021, we had 76 clients approach us for advice and assistance. This has risen to 250 for the same period in 2022. This is an increase of over 200%. Our Housing Assistant and Disabled Facilities Grant Policy includes both discretionary housing grants and urgent repair grants. These are intended to contribute towards the policy objective of reducing the number of homes with Category 1 hazards. Category 1 hazards are those where the most serious risk of harm is identified. This includes cases with no effective heating in their home. We have identified a number of cases where a serious hazard related to excess cold has been identified, but the owner has been ineligible for existing grants despite not being able to afford the necessary work. The new heating assistant grants will form part of the Council's overall Housing Assistance and Disabled Facilities Grant Policy, last reviewed and adopted in 2019. They will extend the eligibility for grant support to cases that might not otherwise qualify for assistance. To be eligible for this scheme, amongst other things, applicants must be a resident in Thanet and be in receipt of a means-tested benefit, or have an income below £31,000 per annum. In addition, the property must have an energy performance certificate rating of D, E, F or G. Grants of less than £1,000 are not required to be paid back. Grants over £1,000 will be required to be paid back in line with the winter warmth grant protocol set out in the adopted Housing Assistance and Disabled Facilities Grant. This only requires grants to be repaid if the occupant moves out or the property is sold within a 10-year period. Specific eligible works will include the repair of defective space heating and hot water systems, the installation of replacement of new space heating and hot water systems, or increased insulation to improve thermal efficiency. I move the recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. To speak under 20.1, Councillor Everett.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I was quite interested in this report, actually. I'd never heard of this scheme, the origin of this money, which is probably unsurprising since it goes back to 2007. I think Councillor Bob Bayford was probably the only person who was here at the time. I might be wrong. I note that the report doesn't actually say how much money the council was awarded in the scheme. It'd be quite interesting to know some of the history. I'm not expecting that tonight, or officers to do any great amount of work to tell us the answers to that. But clearly this money's been recycled. It'd be interesting to know what was the last time any loans or payments were made under it. I just say that because it came as a bit of a surprise to me that it existed. It's obviously, you know, very much to be welcomed and very timely, and we absolutely support it. We think have a significant number of properties which need external repair in order to make their heating systems or insulation effective. So can we ask, will all repairs related to heat conservation be considered, or only those relating to heating systems and insulation which may not provide the breadth of support required? Thanks.
Councillor Bayford, if you'd like to respond.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Everett, for the question. My understanding is that this money will be provided for the use of internal heating, but I'm not entirely sure. I know there's a wide range of uses it can be put to. I'm not entirely sure that it will be just that. So perhaps Sally, you can help with that, or Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, dealing with eligible works, it doesn't only have to be internal works. It could be external works, provided it's focused on energy efficiency. So, you know, if the solution is external, then there's no reason why that couldn't qualify. It's probably worth adding that in the council's already adopted housing assistance policy, there are other forms of grant available as well, including minor repairs grants. One of the reasons for bringing this proposal forward is that the minor repairs grants don't always cover the full cost of this type of work. So there's quite a lot of flexibility, I think, about the scope of works, provided it contributes to the objective to improve energy efficiency and reduce heating cost. The origins of the money, I'm afraid I don't know the original figure from the Regional Housing Board. It was some millions, I know that, but I couldn't tell you the exact figure. It must be in the record somewhere. We'll find that information out for you and share it with you. What I can say is that currently we've got in the budget 480,000 of returned funding that we can direct towards this source. One of Chris's staff is obviously watching online because he commented that last year we had 11,500 returned to add to that pot, and we actually only spent 2,500 last year. So there's clearly funding available to increase the work we're doing here, which I think is good news. Thank you.
And well, hope that as many eligible people take it up as they can. I know there's support within the team for people coming in asking for assistance, of whether they're eligible or not. But I think the government sits on quite big lumps of money where people don't actually draw down a lot of the funding, and maybe they don't explain it out fully enough. But I know that the team will help with this. So I hope that Thanet residents that are eligible really do come in for this, because it is a necessary effort that we need to do to reduce the energy consumption. I mean, it's very relevant at the moment, isn't it? So this has been moved, and I need a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Bob Bayford. Do members agree? Item 10 is procurement heating services and repair contracts. To introduce Councillor Jill Bayford. You're busy tonight. You're earning your corn, Councillor Jill Bayford.
Thank you, Leader. Cabinet is asked to agree to the letting of the contract for space heating servicing, health and safety inspections, maintenance and installation works for the housing stock. This report asks Cabinet to agree to the letting of the contract for space heating and hot water servicing and repairs. The estimated value of this contract is 5.78 million over potential duration of 7 years. Gascall Limited currently provides this service and their contract is due to expire on the 31st of March 2023. This contract currently covers gas boiler breakdown and responsive repairs, annual gas safety checks, call centre, out-of-hours service provision and a boiler replacement programme. The new contract is proposed to include the majority of existing services. However, it is proposed that the new contract does not include an active boiler replacement programme and boilers are replaced at point of failure only. This is in preparation for the phasing out of gas boilers as part of the national approach to carbon reduction and the Council's net zero policy strategy. Gas boilers installed now have a 15-year life cycle, which means we do not want to be installing equipment now that could potentially be replaced in the near future with new emerging green technologies. I move the recommendation set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. To speak under 20.1, Councillor Everett.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Well, it's positive to note that the contract makes provision for moving away from gas and towards more sustainable forms of energy, and the length of the contract allows for some flexibility. Just a question really, that do we believe that there could be a benefit to the local economy to split the larger tender into smaller contracts to allow for bids from businesses other than our largest businesses, and have we looked at integrating policies such as the provision of apprenticeship roles within this tender?
Thank you, Councillor Everett. Could I ask Bob to respond to that, please?
Okay, so after short conferring, we don't think it's practical to split the contract, to be honest. You know, this contract includes the absolutely critical gas safety service, and the administration of that service is hugely important to ensure that we're compliant with the requirements of the regulator and the legislation. So it would be really difficult for the team, I think, to manage this contract if it was partitioned down. Well, I've said here before, I know in previous reports, that we would support the inclusion of apprentices in contracts, and we can absolutely look at the potential to include apprenticeships in this contract.
Thank you, Mr Porter, for that reply.
There is something to add to that, actually. Sorry, Leader.
An addition.
Just to say that, you know, recognising the kind of motivation behind this about local employers, there is also scope, and Gascall currently do employ local subcontractors and local labour. So, you know, obviously that's one of the key things that we want to see, that you know, employment opportunities from our procurement give opportunity to local people. So there's definitely scope for that as well.
Thank you. So this item has been moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David Saunders. Do members agree? Thank you, Cabinet. That concludes the business for this evening. The meeting is closed at 19:48. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.